Hi there. It is me, Liz, with Liza Jane Designs. I'm going to start a little slowly till my connections get updated here. So, Liza Jane Designs, Afton, Minnesota, coming to you from my brand new space here, um, the Afton Creative Arts Studio. This is the new and final home of Liza Jane Designs. I'm never moving again. We're here in the St. Croix River Valley in Minnesota, far eastern Minnesota, just outside the Twin Cities. So if you're in my area, I hope you'll come see us here in Afton. I am an IOD retailer here in Afton, and if you're here and I'm your retailer, I hope to get to know you. But if you are somewhere else, always know you can find a retailer on the Iron Orchid Designs website. Just look up retail locator and find someone that works for you, that's in your area. Today, I'm doing something that's very difficult for me, which is trying to keep it simple. I tend to go overboard. It's a trait. I'm working on it. Um, I like to give people a lot of bang for their buck. And I think that's a good thing, but it also can be a little bit overwhelming. So today we're going to do some paint inlays on just a simple charcuterie or breadboard. What I am using today for a substrate for what I'm working on, base, is these are brand new restaurant quality cutting boards. And what I do with them is just paint or stain, decorate on one side and leave the other so that it's still food safe and can actually be used in a kitchen. So it's decorative, it's functional. Some of the best art, I think, is decorative and functional. Um, Let me see what I want to do before I switch to the other screen. What we're going to be using also is the Melange paint inlay. I love this paint inlay for so many reasons. As a retailer, I love it because it has lots of smaller designs that I think takes the fear away from using a paint inlay for the first time. Uh, the big, gorgeous, full on designs that are also available that make an entire scene. They're fabulous, but I think if you haven't tried these yet, they can be, a little bit scary and overwhelming. You're afraid to mess up. So this is like bite-sized paint inlays. So I love it for that. But I also just love the images that are here. And there's a variety of sizes. Uh, you see, I used one of the botanical drawings to do this yesterday. And if you can see, I colorized it a bit. I'm going to show you how I did that today too. So enough with the yip yapping. Let's get started. If you're watching, and I see that several people are, I would love it if you would say hello and let me know where you're watching from. Uh, like I said, I did this piece yesterday, and I'll kind of go over what I did, and then we're going to start anew today. What I like to do with these boards is tape off the edges with painter's tape so that I get a nice crisp line around it. And I'll show you how I do that on this brand new clean board. This got a little bit of stain on it, so I'm going to use this side to paint on. Make sure my table's as clean as it can be. This work surface gets stained, which is okay, but I don't want anything on here that's going to transfer to our new project, right? So here's the side that has some stain on it. And we're just going to use plain old blue painter's tape that I got at the big box home improvement store. With this, the edge is kind of beveled here. So I like to leave that bevel showing. It's going to be part of the top. You can put your tape where you like. You could put it up here. I'm going to follow the line of that beveled edge. You can, let me raise that up a little bit and just push that down. You see it curves around. I want to keep that curve as part of the front design and just press the tape along. Hi, Christina. We have Indiana, a couple of folks, Pat and Nikki from Indiana. Do you guys know each other? I know it's a big state, but and Sacramento. I was in Sacramento back in April with the IOD sisters and others for our conference. It was really fabulous. I love Sacramento. My sister-in-law lives there. Rosie, if you're watching, hello. And get to know Christina. She's also from Sacramento, which I know is a big city. We're just going to burnish that, which my daughter tells me people don't know what that word means, but it just means rub down with some friction so that it's attached really well. So we're going to burnish that edge and just continue to tear off pieces of tape and come around that edge, matching it up. I'm very fussy about that too. I like it to be a nice, smooth line. I try to say and be not a perfectionist, but that doesn't mean we're not particular about what we want to see happen. So I shoot for what I think is ideal, and then from there I get what I get. If I try my best, I know it's going to be good enough. It'll show the creators, in this case small letter C creator, me, the creator's hand. So I'm going to continue around here, just lining that up. And I am out on the driveway of the studio today. The sunshine is fabulous. Yes, it is so nice to be outside, Linda. Christina, you've been scared to use your molds. Well, maybe next week we can play with molds a little bit. There is absolutely, positively no reason to be scared of any of your art supplies or craft supplies. They are your friends. They're here to make you look good. They're here to, especially, I think, Iron Orchid Designs tools and products are designed so that if you're super experienced, you can use them to the max. If you're brand new, you can be successful right out of the gate and have a beautiful project that you're going to love. So don't be scared. And I'll try to do some future videos featuring molds that you can probably find on the Iron Orchid Designs YouTube channel or Facebook page or others that you follow. I mean, we're one big happy family, I think, in Iron Orchid Designs. There's not a lot of competition, there's a lot of cooperation, and our customers are what matters most to us. So we want you to get what you need from wherever works for you. So Google around for videos about molds. I love using molds. Eventually, I hope that my followers will come to really appreciate how all the different IOD products work so well together, that you can use the stamps and transfers on top of that and paint inlays and add some molds. And before you know it, you have this multimedia masterpiece. But right now I have a taped edge. That's what I have. And is it Brania Cabot? I hope that I will take away some of the intimidation. you should not be afraid, again, of paint inlays. I think the big giant ones are pretty scary because, it's this huge image that you feel like you got to get every single thing right, or it's going to start with some of the ones from Melange. If you happen to be in my area, come on down to the studio and we can play a little bit with individual ones. If you are not here and you find another stockist in your area, ask for a demonstration. Hello, Ann Minahan from Colorado. Um, it's a beautiful day here. We're a very favorite motorcycle run along the St. Croix Trail. So you'll hear birds, you'll hear motorcycles. Excuse me, you'll hear a little allergy coughing. I'm going to take a drink. Kelly, today I am not using molds. Today I'm using paint inlays. I mentioned molds because one of our previous commenters said she was a little intimidated by them. So maybe next week, or definitely very soon, I will do a video featuring molds. Today we're using paint inlays. Hello, Sherry Martin. So good to have you here. So you guys, this is one of my free for the taking tips. When you mask off areas, whether it's like this for a crisp edge on a board, or if it's for stenciling, a really helpful thing to do is first apply a layer of water-based clear coat. So I'm using, my paint line has, every paint line, I believe, has a corresponding water-based sealer. So I am focusing this along the edge where the tape is so that it creates a real definite seal that my paint isn't going to seep under. So we're sealing this edge just for that extra protection and knowing that, that's going to close that up. So any leakage that would have occurred under here is not going to happen. If the clear coat will get in there and seal it off. And I'm putting it everywhere because I've learned that whatever I put on top behaves differently if the board is sealed or if the board is not sealed. So I want this to look uniform. So the reason I'm putting it in the middle is for uniformity. The reason I'm putting it around the edges is to keep my paint from seeping underneath and giving me uneven lines. So that layer's done. We've taped it. We put a clear coat on it. I'm going to set it aside to dry. And just come on back to this one and talk a minute again. So on here, I used an off-white chalky style paint and painted a layer on. I let that dry and then added a second layer of the same color. I'm going to peel off this tape as we talk. I added a second layer of the same color, and while that was wet, I laid my inlay design from Melange onto the surface. We make sure that's nice and tightly adhered, or just, no bubbles. It's making contact with the surface. Doesn't have to be tight. You just don't want to be missing any areas. See how nice and clean that line is coming? So there's that beautiful line from the painter's tape and sealing. Hope you can see. There we go with that. And the design was inlaid. Then I sealed it. Then I added some color and then I sealed it again. So we're going to do that right now with, we're going to do a little different on this board. I'm going to paint the one we just taped, but this board I earlier kind of stained with, I actually stained it with chalk paint or chalk style paint that was a deep brown color, very, very watery. And I stained this board, which looks pretty kind of beat up and old now. I love that look. So I want to preserve the wood stain look of this. So instead of using paint for this inlay, I'm going to use clear coat. So we're going to pick a design. I have the Melange inlay set here, which is 8 sheets of gorgeous designs. I'm kind of thinking I would like to use a bit of a bigger one on this board that covers more of the front. So we're going to try some different things out for size, like literally for size. I kind of like how that looks. If we get any, oh, thanks, Sherry. I love being outside and doing all this work. So it's one of the wonderful things of Minnesota in the spring and, well, in the summer is you get to work outside. Ooh, the sunflower, right? That's gorgeous. That could go on, or this guy looks like it's a good size for the board. So I'm just trying things out. Yes, this inlay, I I love it as just a user, and I love it as a retailer for because I think it takes away a lot of the scariness. Let's see how that would look. I think that would look fabulous. Do we have any votes? The sunflower is awesome. Kind of extends over the edge. So maybe. Um, Anything you guys want to see in particular? Or do you want me to just pick one that I like? These are a bit small for what I'm going for right now, but this one is a good size. So this is my process. I just kind of take a look at my surface, take a look at the designs. I'm really kind of liking that. Right now, it's going to be this one. I love the rooster, but he's too big for this. Isn't he fabulous, though? Ugh. And then some more flowers. Okay, I'm going to settle on, you see all those amazing designs. I'm going to use this one. I shouldn't say settle. I'm going to choose this design and grab my scissors and cut around and just cut it out of its paper. This paper reminds me of a very light parchment paper. It does have a grid. In this instance, I don't think the grid is as important because I can see the actual design and I just want to make sure I'm getting all of it. But the grid will help me know I'm lining it up straight on my board. So these are called paint inlays, right? Christina, I also love the sunflowers. I don't want to lose any in wrapping around. I think I need a slightly wider board to give that sunflower its full glory. So I'm using clear coat. I'm going to get a dry brush and we'll just squirt some of this on here. Clear coat is going to dry totally clear and still leave this looking like a stained wood board. So I'm putting that on in a smooth, thin coat. Wet everywhere though. There we go. Clear coat is on. I'm going to apply, let's see, make sure I have them the right way. The bow is at the bottom. I'm going to go like right there with that and just smooth it out. I got a little bit of a buckle there and I'm going to smooth that. If I don't smooth out those wrinkles, I get a little, I don't know, a little crinkling in the paint. That isn't the end of the world, but I like to avoid it if I can. So spraying that or getting that spread, I'm going to reach over and get my spritzer bottle and just spray the top of that inlay, get it wet, and smooth it out. So we want the design area to be wet, and so wet medium underneath, in this case clear coat. Often it's a paint that you're going to lay it right into. I'm placing that on and smoothing it out, and then we're going to set that one aside and come back to the one we just started this morning. So this guy's going aside to dry. I'm going to brush where, oh, I don't want any clear coat on top of that. So I'm going to smooth that out. There we go. No bumps. Okay, smoothing that out. That guy's, I think we always feel like Julia Child when we do this, or that's probably just aging myself. So there's that. We're back to this board. That, remember, we taped, we sealed it. I'm outside here in the Minnesota summer, so it is dry already. And I'm going to use an off-white paint and give that guy one coat of paint. These inlays can be applied to any color. They will pop out, but I guess I'm going for kind of that farmhouse or cottage core or rustic look that black and white gives me, or black and off-white. Neutral colors, but you can apply an inlay to any color paint. And on some of the inlays that are full color, it's amazing how different they look with a different colored background. So a thin coat, chalk style paint. You can use inlays on other paint styles, but there's some special considerations if you use them on paints that have built-in sealers. With a true chalk style paint that has no built-in sealer, you can use the inlay and let it dry completely on the surface. It will never, it'll never dry so much that you can't get it off, because chalk paint has, good morning. We open for customers and visitors at 11. Got it. Okay. So that's not too far away, no, right? All right. Okay. Thank you. It's always nice to have someone stop by, isn't it? And hopefully she doesn't think I'm crazy talking to myself. I'm not crazy talking to myself. I'm doing a video. I might be a little crazy. Okay, so this guy now has its first coat of paint, and we're going to set that aside and let it dry. I'm not sure, because our things are in various states of drying, what we should talk about now. I'm going to talk about how to seal. Okay, so I'm going to bring back, this is lecture part of the process, right? So one thing with paint inlays to keep in mind is that when you pull the paper up, which you'll see in a little bit, what you have on the surface is, I would say, live paint. It is still something that you can take a wet brush to and manipulate a little bit. It is real paint, and you can still work with it. That provides lots and lots of possibilities. It also provides some challenges. What you want to do before you add color to a paint inlay image is seal it. And you have to be careful about how you seal it, because you don't want to smudge it. It's active paint. So you can use any kind of a quality water-based spray sealer, and give that a quick aerosol spray. Or what I have right here, see if I can get it in the camera, is the top coat that comes with my paint brand mixed half and half with water. So it's half top coat, half water in a little spritzer bottle. And you can spritz that right on. That is another way to seal that. So an aerosol spray or a handmade atomizer with 50/50. What else has worked for me is using I have a sealer that I used earlier in the presentation here that's not super watery. It has a little bit more thickness to it. So if I put that on, and I'll show you how I do it when we get to that point, I just very lightly brush over it with a soft bristle brush where I'm almost just skimming the surface so it doesn't mess up that paint inlay. I found success doing that as well. So I'm going to show you some ways while we wait for those to dry. I'm going to whip out my old favorite water soluble crayons. So this is a set of 83 or 84. There's smaller sets available. You can buy them one by one in art supply stores. But I'm using them because they're convenient. You can also use, a tiny bit of chalk paint that you water down a bit. You can use actual watercolor paint. You could use watercolor pencils. So I'm using these because I have them and I really love them, but they're not a requirement for this. And what I like to do with them for this purpose is just get a paintbrush wet and put it on the crayon. I'm going to do this on the paper towel here. Can you see that? I don't know if you can or not. Doop doops. I'm just applying. It basically gives you a little bit of watercolor on the end of your brush that you can then apply to the surface. I don't know if that is showing up on the camera. The sun is so bright, but I'm just going to kind of dot it a little bit in here and see if you can see. I'm wanting very subtle color on these, like an old botanical painting. That's the look I'm going for. So that's why I'm choosing this very watery look. So I'm using the Caran d'Ache crayons, but you can use any kind of coloring medium. Watercolor, your furniture paint that you water down, acrylic paints that you water down. So no need to go out and buy those special, although you might love them like I do. That's a fun way to add some color. Let's see if this guy has dried enough that we can move on. Oh, Linda, I'm so glad I'm giving you ideas. That's like my favorite thing. I love to inspire other people to create. Yeah, this is drying. It's sticking down, which I think is good. Means it's getting dry over there. So I'm going to spritz it again with water. It's the inlay process. Lay it into wet paint, spritz it, let it dry, and pull it up. Can you see the image? Now, this is in clear coat. And again, because I like a rustic, worn look, I'm happy with where that is. I'm going to set this paint inlay aside to dry so that I can use it again. I will say when using it with a paint that has sealer in it, or when using it with clear coat like I did here, sometimes you don't get as many transfer images or inlay images from it. I'm kind of just trying to smooth away where, I don't know if that's going to work. Nope, my fingers are dirty. So this is a subtle, soft black design against that wood. Yeah, I like it. It in person, it shows up better than how I think it's looking on the camera here. but the design came through really nicely. I want to show you, we talked about how the paint is still active on here, even though I used a clear coat. Let's see if we can, yeah. So in here where there's a kind of a stripe, I am moving some of that paint over to blend those together. So you can still blend these out a little bit if you get harsh lines that you don't like. So there, I darkened that and blended that together. A little bit over here too. Just not necessary, but sometimes can just add to the look, right? So there that is on a stained board. So it's more subtle than what you get on a light color paint, but I love it. And it looks, what does it look? It looks beat up and old, and I love beat up and old. Lucky for my husband, I like beat up and old. Um, Thank you, Sherry. It does kind of look like a wood burning, doesn't it? All right, this guy is not quite dry. I don't have electricity here on the driveway, so I'm gonna, I don't know, I'm gonna wave it around. Does anybody have any questions about paint inlays or any other IOD topics that maybe I can talk on while we wait for this to dry a little bit more? I'm going to have to run an extension cord out here for next time so that we can dry these up. My daughter often will come and help me with videos, but she has not. Today, she has other things going on. So I'm on my own here and grateful that StreamYard lets me run a couple of cameras at once. I'm getting a little bit better at this technology stuff. I shouldn't say that out loud. I'm going to knock on wood. But all right, I'm going to risk it. I'm going to risk it, you guys, for the sake of live video. We're going to pick out our image. That'll take a couple minutes. Let's see. The ones we looked at earlier, we'll kind of go back. All right, here's what I think I'm going to do. This one has words, the botanist. I'm going to put that in the middle. And then I'm already thinking about how later I'm going to add a little bit of transfer around the edges. So it will be the botanist words in the middle and some floral accents along the edges. So that is, again, that's for me, it's all fun, but the fun really multiplies exponentially when I can combine all the different tools like transfers and inlays and stencils and decoupage. When I can do all of those together just to get the look that I want, that's what art is. Very empowering. Creating is empowering because you start to realize, I have started to realize that so many limitations, I just put them on myself. They're not really there. Um, there's no end to what, if we can think it, we can most likely make it happen. In my case, I make it happen after a few missed attempts, but I truly don't feel any of them are failures because you learn good stuff when you dare to make a mistake. I have a sign I painted in my shop that says, be brave enough to suck at something new. I think that is important, right? That we have to realize if something is a little bit tricky, we're maybe not going to get it right out of the box. So do I want this? I'm going to put it a little bit high so that I can do flowers around the edges here. I'm going to just put that in the middle. I'm going to spritz it with my water. So you see this, you guys, that I was starting with a brand new board on this one. So it can be very quick. that this was a raw board that we put the tape around. We did the clear coat. We waited for it to dry. We did our first coat of paint. Now this is our second coat. So it doesn't have to be a long, drawn out, scary process. Pushing those out, get that water puddle off of there. I'm trying to keep it smooth where the words are and get those air bubbles out so I don't get tucks in my paint. I don't know if tucks in the paint is a real thing, but I know what I mean, where it creates like a wrinkle in the paint that, again, not the end of the world, but maybe not what I'm looking for right now. So just getting that good and down on that surface, and we're gonna set it aside. Well, it's nice. I see people talking to one another here that know each other. Sherry and Nikki, I think. Yes. So that's another fabulous thing about being in the IOD Creative Tribe. We make friends with all sorts of people from all over the world who share our interests in creating. So there is that guy. Just going to wait for it to dry so we can take off. So here we're not adding color, are we? I'm going to add transfers later. This way I showed you how to add some color. I'm trying to check our time with 37 minutes. Anybody have any questions? Do you want to talk about Minnesota? Do you want to know what it's like here? People are often very surprised. I talked to some customers who moved here from Massachusetts, where I grew up. They moved here because they thought it would be cooler than New England. It's not. It's maybe a little less humid, but not even that. A lot of days it is incredibly hot and humid. My stepdad, Finney, used to say, wow, you guys have it all here. You get 30 below and 100 degrees above. It's a state of extremes. And, it's not a bad thing, but you just need to know that. So don't come here because you think the summers will be cool. But have you done these on a dough bowl? Robin wants to know. I have not done them on a dough bowl specifically, but I have done them on sugar molds. And you know what sugar molds are? Made from the same kind of wood with all the holes, like you could drop candles in or mold sugar apparently. And it's come out beautifully around the edges of those sugar molds. So I suspect it would be the same on a dough bowl. You'd use the clear coat then, or maybe, I've seen dough bowls like dry brush painted with off-white kind of. But even with that, if you're gonna the inlay is only going to stick to where the paint is wet. So if you're going to dry brush, you probably still want to do a clear coat to apply your inlay. You want the inlay to be put into something that's definitely wet. On the dry brushing, it would only stick to where there was still wet paint. So it's something to play around with, that's for sure. And a dough bowl has the advantage that you could do it on the bottom, right? See how it comes out, and apply what you learned from the bottom to the sides and the top, and no one's ever going to know if the bottom doesn't look all that great. So let's just see. Someone commented here, loving all the options. So this is my attempt to be simple. I still have to go on and on, don't I? But let's reiterate. We got the stained look. I'm going to put this back the other way. We have the stained look here. Yes, but I'll be opening in a few minutes. Actually, the store's open if you want to go in and look around. I'll be done here in a few minutes and I'll come help you. We typically open at 11, but I do this video at 10, and it gets me moving early in the morning.
So you're doing a video right now?
Yes. Okay, so here we are with this guy, and again, seeing the results of the inlay over the stained board, right? The one from yesterday that was applied over off-white paint, these edges taped and blocked off with a seal coat, colorized with my Caran d'Ache crayons, but just as easily with any kind of paint. Used, just a didge of paint and a lot of water to get that watercolory look, if that's what you're going for. That's what this Melange transfer reminds me of, is just old-fashioned watercolor. So I think they're lovely without any addition of color, but this is even, I don't know what I was saying because I was distracted by a squirrel or a comment. Hello, Linda from Oklahoma. Yes, you could put transfers on burlap, I believe. If it's stretched, you don't want a transfer to get crumpled up because it's got some crispiness to it. But today we are working with paint inlays, which are a little bit different. They are actually paint that is going to go to the surface of your whatever you're working on. So if you have a burlap canvas and you paint it and you apply the inlay, you have basically hand painted that burlap canvas. When you seal the paint, if you're going to use it in a fabric way, I'd probably seal it with a fabric medium. If it's going to be stretched as a wall piece, you could seal it with anything at all. But if I was working with a burlap canvas, I think I would lean more towards the inlays than the transfers. And if you have questions about the differences or you want to talk about that some more, message me, and I can go on and on about transfers and paint and all things IOD and all things creative and paint. I want to see if we can get a good pull on this before I sign off. Oh yeah, it looks like it's already kind of transferred, or I'm saying transfer because that's what's happening, but these are called inlays. I'm going to wet that again, which gives me a better chance to pull this back. I think, you guys, I'm going to lay it back down to do some more work, but you can see that it has begun to transfer. The inlay paint is laying on my surface now. I'm going to put it back down though, because I want a crisper image before I'm done. So I'm going to put that back. I lined it up. And what I'm going to do here is just probably say goodbye. And when this has transferred some more and is a nice dark image on here, I'll take a picture of it and put it in the comments of this event and also post it in the IOD tribe. So for now, unless anyone has any last questions, I'm going to sign off. I am Liz from Liza Jane Designs in Afton, Minnesota. The Afton Creative Arts Studio is where Liza Jane Designs currently and forever will reside. This is my building, my property, my business. For Food Safe, Anne, thank you for a last minute question here before we go. On these boards, I don't do anything on the back. This is Food Safe. And to condition the wood, you can use butcher block oil. You could use hemp oil. So to keep it food safe, use a Food Safe oil on the unpainted side. So you can still use this as a charcuterie or breadboard. This side will not be food safe because it's paint and sealer and those kinds of things. So one side is food safe, the other side is decorative. So I hope that makes some sense. And go check out, find your local stockist on the IOD page, or come see me here in Afton if you're ever in the area. Um, Follow-up questions, if you're watching the replay, I will go back and read them and answer them. So thank you so much for joining this morning. And I'm going to be here again on next Saturday with a new project that I guess we'll have to all wait and see. We'll have to wait and see what that might be. So I will catch you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for stopping.
We'll be back.
All right, excellent. Bye now.